We're going to talk about the forbidden and limited list problem. Now make sure you guys smash the crap out of that subscribe button so you guys don't miss out on more content. It's a lot of random thoughts in this video here, and the destruction of the most recent OTS pack with the possibility of the upcoming forbidden and limited list. Mainly looking at you, Ketu Draco Tail, mainly looking at you, Joe Cool. You know, these are cards that, you know, we saw Japan, you know, literally crater on their last list, and once again Konami made them OTS Ultimate Rares on our side of the game, and it's really cool to see that, you know, potential prizing gets flushed down the toilet, and, you know, it makes it very hard to want to collect OTS Ultimate Rares when you put these things underneath a microscope and you see, oh, hey, you know, one side of the game did it, you know, thanks for giving us our luxury cards. You know, it's like, oh, hey, I pulled these $50 cards, and all of a sudden, you know, they get flushed down. I think now there's also, you know, the workaround. Konami might not go after, you know, Joe Cool. They could go after another piece. They could go after Rahu instead of Ketu. Sure. Oh, but that just kind of goes back to the Rizal problem that we had. You guys remember when we beat around the bush with Rizal, and then Rizal just exploded into being too much of a monster here with this. And this is why, like, I say it's the forbidden and limited list problem, but it's actually just the choices that Konami chooses to make these higher rarity cards. So I'm not disappointed that Joe Cool and Ketu Draco Tail were, you know, higher rarity cards. Honestly, I'm quite happy to actually see this. But then, you know, it comes down to the, well, long-term thanks, Konami. And right now people are, I don't think, really clicking with the possibility of this coming down and being a massive shakeup in the near future. I don't think that's on anybody's mind right now. But then, you know, we've got cards that need to be taken care of right now, you know. We've all looked at the water barrier statue. We all saw what happened, and we talked about, oh boy, you know, you could bridge into the water barrier statue off a 7 Tachyon. It didn't take a genius to realize that allowing that bridge point to exist was going to create problems, and I don't think Konami had the hindsight to see that. I think Konami's prerogative has been, we don't want to necessarily ban all 6 barrier statues, but it's when they become such a problem. I mean, look how bad Wind Barrier statue was. You know, you made a deck that explicitly had infinite normal summons. What did you think was going to happen when it came down to, you know, being Wing Beast literally was searchable within the archetype? What did you expect? And then they broke the same thing with the Earth Barrier statues. Rock, searchable, Gallant Granite. It even broke Fossil Dyna. And then it comes down to the same thing with the Water Barrier statue. You know, the only difference between the Water Barrier statue is Konami's viewpoint on 7 Tachyon for some reason. For whatever reason, Konami looks at 7 Tachyon and says, hey, it's a -1 that also forces you to put back a card. Look at their Genesis mentality on this. I mean, it's been proven that they've chosen to not purposely touch this card for the longest time. And it's mind-boggling to me that being able to universally search for problem cards. And then, you know, we go back to the Water Barrier statue problem. You know, sure, Mermail's the only real deck slapping on the table. Mermail's already been handcuffed up when we were looking at Mullen Glacia underneath things. I mean, a lot of people still agree even to this day that Mullen Glacia needs to be banned from the game. But water has long since rotated out. So if you go after the Water Barrier statue, okay, so what happens to Dark and Light? You remember the last time the Dark Barrier statue was seeing play? It was being brought out off of the Chimera monster, setting up a Floodgate against the opponent. And the only reason that was relevant was because Fire was the best deck in the format at the time. 99% of the time within the game's history, Dark and Light are usually the 2 best themes. Alright, so when you're not seeing those 2, you know, kind of duking it around within the meta, you do tend to see these off-the-wall things kind of occurring, and then, you know, it kind of makes you look at the barrier statues and go, yeah, maybe these are problems. And then this also brings me to the whole Kwaki Maridrago thing. You know, it's the same thing here. It's a floodgate monster that I've kind of defended Kwaki Maridrago because, you know, it's a light and dark. It's not like too big of a floodgate. You know, there are some little counterplay lines to it. And, you know, it's usually being brought out off of a Hermetic Spheres, which is already going to be taking away one of your core components anyway. So, you know, it's just kind of that. All of this comes down to the umbrella of Floodgates. And we've talked countlessly throughout the years about Floodgates, you know, some of them being a necessary evil. I mean, look at the current state of Rivalry Gozen, and there can only be one. They don't hardly see play at all, except for, I think There Can Only Be One was the last one that really saw play. And you can thank Vanquish Soul for that. Actually, I think there was some recent decks in OCG that was playing There Could Only Be One in the main deck. I don't remember what variant that was, but that was a takeaway. Floodgates in limited capacity, like Anti-Spell Fragments, for example. These cards can sway games, but you're not seeing them in every sort of format. It's just one of Floodgates just kind of come down to the, you know, you had it, you won, and people don't like that. People want to be able to, you know, unga bunga build big board. And it comes down to the same argument every single time when we put this back underneath the microscope. You know, we see the, you know, unfair card make game not fun, but, you know, me take 25-minute turn, fuck you, I want to win the game. Yeah, same bullshit, different day. All right, control cards. Control has been really getting scrutinized really recently. You know, Stun, you know, we've lost Fossil, we lost Jowgen. You know, if you guys want my real opinion, I'm not necessarily upset with seeing them go. I mean, I'm not running around trying to play Stun. You know, I'm back on playing Sky Striker as a deck that, you know, can still do its thing. It's also not like Runic's dead. You know, we still have Inspector Border, which, by the way, I mean, surprised people haven't called for the death of Inspector. Oh, wait, they have? Yeah. Floodgate monster, bad. But at least, you know, underneath Border, you can still technically special summon. You know, you can still inherent special summon from hand, get body on field, overlay, exceed, synchro. You now have body on field. Me shit pants and cry because I don't have, you know, an out to handle this. It's these sort of tools. And also, the Banlist has always been used as a selling point. I think that's the thing that always has just been such a kick in the balls for the community is when you look at the ban list, Konami uses it to sell product. You know, it's gonna be the same cycle here as we head away from Yummy and Mitsurugi. They're gonna take Yummy, they're gonna limit some things. They'll still leave it playable, but you know, it's being shown the door at this point. You know, same thing they did with Risley. You know, hit the consistency, start show it on out. You know. It's the same cycle. Konami wants you to buy future product. Now, when product slows down like we're in right now, you do get more playtime traditionally to play with these cards, which does create a dragging effect, which makes the community beg for the ban list more, which in turn makes the consumer unhappy. There has to be a balance with this sort of stuff. So, Floodgates are still going to be a problem. Banlist is still going to be used as a decisive selling point tool, though there have been what feels like recent changes to the way that Konami has been handling certain things, which does kind of give me hope. I am interested to see kind of what has felt like a little bit of a shift within some of their marketing dynamics that make me believe they might not be trying to use the list in the same tools in the same way, or they're trying to limit their usage of certain methods of things that they are doing. Either way, what we are seeing right now is an interesting little, you know, same shit, different day, but, you know, it's interesting to see where kind of the problems are lying with the community right now and, you know, where the shifts are going to go. But please, leave a comment down below. Tell me what you guys think. I'll see your beautiful faces back here in a day, guys. Patrons, thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. Check out these other videos.